everybody. Merry Christmas from JamPlay. It's time to work on another Christmas tune. This one is called Good King Wenceslas. And what I want to do here is give you a couple of different versions of the song, and maybe even a different key if you'd like. It's a good beginning fingerstyle guitar song to play, but also it's one that you may be called upon to accompany for some carolers. So what we're going to start with doing is just briefly talking about accompanying carolers and some things to think about, and also what key you would play this song in. One of the toughest jobs for a guitar player, I know this from personal experience, when you get called upon to help out carolers, your biggest challenge, sort of like herding cats, is getting everyone to agree on what key that is best to sing it in. And since singing in that environment is more important than a fancy guitar solo, you need to accommodate your singers. So this song, Good King Wenceslas, typically is done in G. You could modify it and do it in another key if you like, but I think you're going to find most carolers are going to want it in the key of G. And that being the case, the simple chords that we're going to work with are 1, 4, and 5, G, C, and D. And then we'll probably add an E minor in here, our relative minor, to spice it up a little bit. And what I've done in the supplemental content is I've given you what I called the accompaniment version, and that basically has one verse of the lyrics written underneath the chords and in rhythm so that you can kind of figure out where the chord changes are. And I just did a very simple bass note and then strum pattern for that. You really could change that up on this song because it's so simple. You could get away with either doing a very slow, deliberate sound like that, one beat and then one strum on each quarter note, or you could up-tempo the thing and make a bluegrass tune out of it if you want to. That's really up to you and what your carolers want to do. But let's just review the chords. That's our G, then our E minor, this, C, D, and back to G again. Much like I teach in my beginning fingerstyle and beginning guitar playing, when you're learning chords, you want to focus on the root note of the chord. And by that I mean when we play a G chord, our root note is this G down here on the bottom, and so we'll start with that, particularly on the first beat of a measure or whenever there's a chord change. So for example, if I did this, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then in the second measure we go to an E minor, that one beat, I want that to be the E. And then let's say that in this third measure I'm going to do 2 beats on the C and 2 beats on the D and back to the G again. If I do that, I want to do the first beat of the C chord is on a C note, and then right away the D string for the D note for the D chord, okay? Pretty simple strum pattern. After we get through talking a little bit more about the solo fingerstyle arrangement of this, we'll talk about some up-tempo options for this, or maybe even a little bit of bluegrass picking. One of the other jobs that you typically have accompanying carolers, and it's the same is true in this song, is it's usually up to you. People are going to look to you to say, what key are we in? What's my first note? So that the vocalist can get their pitch, right? Low. They need to know when to come in and what the tempo is. So you can set that up for them by doing a little, what we call a tag or a turnaround at the beginning of the song. So let's say you walk up, you ring the doorbell, and everybody's ready to start caroling, and you're going to lead off with Good King Wenceslas, all right? You might start out with and get everybody going at the same time, okay? I would recommend a little 3-chord turnaround like that. If you can, if you go ahead and learn the fingerstyle arrangement of this, and this is why I taught it first in G, is because this sets you up to actually do a little miniature solo. You could do that much to key up the vocalist, okay? It's a nice little tag. If I were going to only play this song as a fingerstyle solo, I probably wouldn't pick G for reasons that I'll show you when we learn it. But like I said, I put it in here in this version so that you could work on a tag, or maybe you want to do a verse in between. If you're accompanying a vocalist, they sing a verse, and then you play a solo, and then you go back to singing again. It's a nice way to break things up. Let's go ahead now and work our way through the entire melody and all of the chords that go along with that. Okay, you ready? Here we go. We'll start with the G, and we're getting our melody. Most of the melody is on the first and second string, so our job is really find that melody underneath that chord shape. Here's the C part. You could also do an E minor there, and a D. I put the chords in there in a certain way, but these are ones, particularly that E minor, where you can flex back and forth between using the E minor or staying on the G. Either one works. Okay, here we go again. Okay, let's try it with an E minor. Song does repeat that line twice anyway. Then it goes up to here, and that's very high. What are you going to do to support that with a chord? Okay, what you're seeing me do there is making use of the fact that the second, third, and fourth strings open happen to work whether we're playing our G chord or our E minor 7th, all right? So if we only play, let's say, the fourth string on down, that implies a G chord, right? All you have to do to change that to an E minor is add that E down on the bottom. Listen to the difference. All I did was change which open string I'm playing, and I got a chord change out of it. Continue on. And this is the place where the chords and the melody structure varies a little bit for the last line in the song. It goes like this. Let's talk through that again, because again we're getting some subtle, what I call implying a chord. We're not really playing large full versions of those chords up here, but we're sending the listener enough to know what they are, and it sounds correct. Okay, let's do that last line again. That's the melody note. Okay, so our chords are, okay, the D and an E minor in there. And then up here, I'm choosing a D, and I get that by putting a first finger bar on the 7th fret for this. Okay? And what you could do is only bar 3 strings and pick up that open 4th. Remember, that's our root note of our D chord that we're after here. That actually sounds a little bit better to me. It gives more low end, more resonance. And there's a C right there. That's a miniature version of this E-shaped bar chord right here. But we don't need the whole thing. You can if you want to. Could do it like this. Alright, and that last chord, our melody note is right there, and so again I'm using the 4th and 3rd string open and that melody note. Another way you could go, if you can get there fast enough, is to play more of the G chord and get it all and play your melody note down here. So that would look like this. If if you're playing a nice, slow, deliberate tempo at which people frequently sing that, you'll have time to do that. Maybe you want to for fullness. If you're in a little bit of a hurry, if you're in a little bit more of a hurry at a higher tempo, that's a lot less movement. You can move around less and get that done. All right, let me play it through for you one more time, and you can use this one as a reference to use the start and stop button on that video and loop any portions that you're having trouble with or that you want to maybe explore changing up a little bit. Try different chords. Here we go. There you go. Now let's go somewhere else with this. Let's try a key change. Let's say you want to do it in C. One of the nice things about this song is that the melody line starts, and whatever key you're in, whatever chord you start with, the first note of the melody is a root note. We're in the key of G. We started off, the first note is a G. So transposing this to a different key, then we have a pretty easy clue where to start looking for the melody note. If we go to C, we know our first melody note is a C note. And in consideration for your carolers, notice how much lower this melody. I personally would be, if I were a singer and going to sing, I would be more comfortable singing it down here. It's more in my range. But the average, where people are used to singing, the higher one probably works. However, for fingerstyle, this gives us some options here. Listen to this. A minor is now our relative minor chord in this key. Remember where we did E minor in the key of G? Now we're going to do A minor is the chord in the key of C, and then F. I like that little, that's a suspended note right there. I did that in G by adding this C note here. Puts just a little bit of tension in there. That's a G suspended, or G sus. Since we're doing Christmas songs, it's good to play a Jesus chord. Right? All right, and then so in C, we can get that suspended chord by adding the little F under here. So again, the phrase is, now you'll have to lift up your A note right there to get the melody, and then F. Goes higher. All right. Same exact melody. The intervals are the same and the chords are the same relative to where you started. But what I like about C is it gives us some different options on our bass notes, and it starts me to thinking about doing some movement between the chords. And what I mean by that is here, for example, that's all on C. Remember, one of our versions is going to an A minor there? Well, what I want to hear when I go from a C to an A minor, let's do a little walk down. Hear that bass note. Emphasize the bass and listen all the way through. So the bass note became basically a little scale. Okay, listen to it again. We can do the same thing in that next part. That same scale works again. Let's see what we have here. And by the way, I've seen this last measure done differently two ways. One is to go to the 4 chord, the F in this case, or it's to stay on the C, only do 1 beat on the 4 chord and back. Either way works, whatever you like to hear best. Let's arpeggiate this a little bit. I've written that out in the tab for you to try it in C, so you can have some fun with that. Now we'll go one more place and try something completely different.